Hey, it's Dan, and welcome to Unified Gaming. So today guys, we're going to play Trash or Grab, the game where we check the weekly vendors to see are their items worth grabbing or are they absolute trash. As with this video, we're going to go through the Golden Vendor, the Infinite Archive, Scholarium, Tel Var Vendor and much more. We focus primarily from a gameplay and PvP perspective, and I will touch upon PvE where possible. For the Golden Vendor herself, she can be found in Cyrodiil. She can be found on the Northern High Rock Gate if you're DC. If you're over on AD, she's down in the Western Elsewhere Gate, and over in the Ebonheart Pat, you can find her at the Southern Morrowind Gate. It's also worth stressing that her items do rotate, and this is recorded on the 12th of July 2025, so items will be different in the future. As always, if you like this series, then likes and comments are greatly appreciated, and if you haven't done so, do subscribe so you don't miss out. There's many builds and guides on the way as well as this series. I also want to say a massive thanks to YouTube and Patreon members who do support the content. They get early access to the videos, exclusive builds and guides, and much more. There's details down below. For the Golden Vendor this week, she's selling a range of jewellery and some sets, mainly shoulder pieces. It is worth stressing that this week there should have been double the items, and unfortunately Source has dropped the ball on this one, so this is not the case. So if we were hoping for like loads and loads of stuff, that isn't quite here just yet. But the items this set, we have Darlet Bray. So this week, Darlet Bray is probably one of the better items in my opinion. If you've seen any of my sniper builds, I love this set because this is very, very, very strong. How does it work? In your 5-piece, when you are crouching and not bracing, so that means you could be sneaking like this, with the eye open, you could be moving around and still seen, you could be hidden, but as long as you touch the crouch, that regen then turns on. What this means is that this is applying every second, and regeneration is currently every 2 seconds on your stat page. So if you look at your stat page, you'll see on this character we have 2000 recovery, that's every 2 seconds. This is basically 1300 recovery, this piece, plus it's extra healing as well, so it's a fantastic set for a sniper or a gank build if you want to move around and still have good sustain without, getting yourself caught off guard. And I use this on a lot of my builds, so in my opinion, I will buy this. It is a fantastic sustain set. It only works on people who use snipes and ganks and that kind of stuff, but it's very, very, very good. We then have Radiant Bastion. So you deal 10% all direct damage done to you back to the attacker up to 4,250. This is a really fun kind of set because it is just a reflection set. So it's a bit like Fuse of Harbinger. It's obviously easier to get. And if you want to play like more of a niche playstyle in PvP, this is possible. It's quite a fun set. Is it the most effective? The answer is no, in all honesty, because it is obviously based on like 10% block damage. And you want to use something like a bash build. So if you're using a bash build, you may want some like fun, just gimmicky with this, that if they hit you, they still get hurt. If you bash them, they still get hurt. So like this with Deadlands Demolisher could be cool, but I wouldn't rush to buy this. It's just a fun set or a sticker book set if you don't have it. We then have ESO. Now, when you take damage while under 50% health, you summon the spirit for 6 seconds, and it will go to you or a random member of the group. The person can then synergize with this, and they'll get a big shield for you and the people around them. It's kind of a support set. It is a set that you can't farm. Normally you can't trade it, so you have to actually farm this. So if you're after this kind of support set, you can. In PvP, it is reduced by half, so it's going to be like a lot smaller. It lasts 10 seconds. It has the shield is for 6 seconds, so it's a 10-second cooldown, so it's not up all of the time. There are better healer sets in my opinion, so I would probably skip this for PvP. PvE, some uses, but again, I'll probably skip this. It's just better sets. We then have Sword Dancer. Sword Dancer is a set that adds 600 weapon and spell damage to your dual wield attacks. It's a really cool set because it gives you loads of damage to like your flurry, to your ult, so the lacerate, you also get extra damage to the whirlwing or the whirling blades. The issue with this is it doesn't buff all of your damage, and unless you're really focusing on dual wield skills only for your damage, which there isn't many burst ones in there, like none, you're going to find this isn't too great, so I'd probably skip this in all honesty. It's not worth it. We then have Selines. Selines, these are shoulder pieces, so my advice with the shoulder pieces is if you're trying to save some keys and hope you don't have to do the RNG game, do consider buying them, even if they're like base game, but just it saves you a bit of time. It's not too expensive to get the AP, but yeah. The set itself, when you deal martial damage, a bear pops out and it hits somebody. It's got a bit of a delay, 1.3 seconds, and it hits very hard. The issue with this is that because it's melee and there's that delay, what often happens is people avoid it. So the only way to really utilize this effectively is to attack somebody and then stun them straight away. So you go for attack and then a stun in that order. So you could do such things such as like a heavy attack into fossilize, and then you'll then make this land almost all of the time. It hits very hard, but it's not reliable. And for that reason, I wouldn't rush to buy this. As with these things, I said, if you don't have this already, just consider buying it to fill your sticker book. PvE wise, if you have no PvE monster set for damage, get this. It's easy. The actual dungeon's easy to get the helmet for, so do consider that. With enough slime claw, this basically is just minor berserk. It's 3 damage and it's lots of crit. This is really good for PvE, for DPS. I use this a lot on my builds. If you run a mythic, you will want to have at least one of these around. So if you don't have this for PvE, buy this. This is very, very useful. PvP wise, I don't really use this. You don't really want to run, a monster set for this buff. You can get this buff from just a camo hunter. So at that point, just use that. And alternatively, you could just use scribing nowadays. It is just loads of crit and it's just bonus damage. Again, I would only buy this if you don't have this unlocked already. But that's the gold, and that's what they're selling so far. Not the best week in all honesty. I would get the Dial-Up Break because I like the set. It's a fun set. If you play as like sniper, gank builds, you want to move around for free, brilliant. If you don't want to do that stuff, then probably skip it. And then the other ones are a bit like mid, in all honesty. We're now going to hop on over to the Infinite Archive and Apocrypha. And here we check the Fender Viola or to see are there anything worth grabbing here. It is worth stressing that in this place you do need to access your own currency system, what they do is there, so it's called Archive Your Fortunes, and you have to play their little mini game. There are some good sets here for PvP, namely the Dragon Knight one, so if you're going to do this, use a DK, that'll be my suggestion. And then you want to go as far east as you can, and the vendor's just tucked behind over here. Fola all sells mainly leads and some scripts. So the leads this week are as followed. You got one for the Infinite Tome, which is basically furnishing, and you got one for Sarah Ben's Ward. This is a really bad mythic item, so just skip this basically. You have Karanda Shoulder, which is a cosmetic. I would skip this personally. And then for the actual scripts this week, you have Expedition, Mangle, Multi-Target, and Gladys Tenacity. All of these are pretty mid, in all honesty. The only good one I would get is Tenacity. This is fantastic. Like, definitely buy this. If you're unsure what this does, I think I'm using it on this character if I recall. It's this one here. It reduces your damage taken by 8% for 8 seconds. It is fantastic with healing contingency because this is your burst heal. It's also damage reduction, and you can put on armor or regens down here. So this becomes a fantastic skill for healing or staying alive or sustain. And for that reason, I would buy this. It is worth stressing that this is going to be 5 times the cost if you don't know this. So this will be 20,000, which is incredibly expensive. But it's really worth getting. If you're going to play a sorcerer at a 1-bar sork, especially like I'm on this build, you do need this. This is very, very, very good. Expedition can be useful in some situations, and like if you're using the trample and you want to have essentially a movement skill for you and allies, you can use this. I wouldn't rush to get this though, in all honesty. And multi-target is only good for the sword and shield skill. As I said, the rest of them are pretty bad. We're now going to hop on over to the Scholarium in Avaya, and if you're not aware, this is now currently free for everybody if you join the game. So if you log in, you can access the scribing system, which is fantastic. It gives you much more options to fix your subclass build. So if you're missing a skill, you're missing a buff, this will complement that system incredibly well, as you'll see a lot of my recent videos. So I would definitely recommend getting on now if you haven't, playing this to unlock this. You can get this as part of the activity finder Golden Pursuits. So you literally just get access to this. And to actually claim it, you go to the Crown Store, and then there'll be a section where it will be in upgrades, and it's just scribing here. It's free for this month only, so do get this. It's very, very good. Once you're inside here, you have to complete the Indrik, this one here, at least once with one character. You get an achievement, and then the vendor then appears. You want to then go as far east as you can, around the corner, and you're looking for the vendor called Fernando, sorry. Fernando sells a range of grimoires. These are always here, so don't stress. But these scripts down here do change week on week. The only one that doesn't change is the class mastery. That is linked to an achievement. We have Savagery and Prophecy, Disease, Generate Ult, and Leech in Thirst. This is basically just more crit chance. You're better just running Inner Light or Camo Hunter, so skip this. The disease damage, there's not enough sets that boost disease damage, and there's not really real good skills for disease damage. The other issue you also have is that if you did use, say, a skill like Willed Soul, yes, you can have disease here and make this into like a disease, but there's no other like disease skills, so like contingency, there's no disease there. Bow, you got disease, but you're not going to use the bow for damage. Poison on 2H. Shield throw, no disease. So the only way to get the disease is basically Willed Soul, and at that point it's really like, it's not worth it. There's just not enough sources of disease damage. The Generate ult you can get anywhere from like Heroic Slash, so just skip this. And the Leech and Thirst, this is namely on the two-handed skill, so Smash, you can put something such as Bleed, physical damage. I quite like the Bleed because it's, you know, hemorrhaging, it's decent. Then you can put in any of these you want, so like Offenses, Parry, but Leech and Thirst basically just gives you some healing. And you can put on Vitality to increase it further. So you then have a skill that when you use it, it heals you for some of the damage, and you just get more healing because of the buff. And you can just spam this and you just basically get free healing as you do damage. With Crit Surge, and you're critting a lot, you can get even more damage. So there's a way to make this be like a really way to just keep healing you as you do damage. Quite fun, but not the most effective for PvP. The final place we go on over to is the Imperial City, and we check the vendors there. It is worth stressing that with the Imperial City, it is incredibly expensive. Like, I cannot stress how expensive it is. But if you do, you know, ever get stuck in a pinch, it is worth still checking out. I'm quickly just going to go and just grab some Tel Var to show you kind of how much things are and if you want to buy stuff, because there's some stuff that's always worth looking at. I'm just going to go to the bank quickly. Tel Var, I've got 1 million Tel Var there, so I'm going to take out... You typically, if you're going to buy stuff, you want to take out about like 30, 40k. So I'm going to take out 50k. I would always suggest never carry this much with you if you go over the surface. And then if you want to go to where the sort of anvil and the flame is, you then want to pop down. As you get down here, you're looking for a vendor that's called the Tel Var Merchant. This will be different from each person's alliance, and you'll know in the right place if you can see that they are selling some gold jewelry and also some leads. So this week we have 2 PvP sets. So you've got Ravaging, which is a fantastic set for Arcanists, brilliant, and Galerians, which is a bit mid. My suggestion though is never buy the jewelry, it is overpriced. You can buy some other players, it's just not worth the money. So the only things you generally want to buy are either the leads or the scripts. So the leads this week, we have Talk of Tone of Constancy. This lead is very mid, you can get this easily. And the Harpooner's Wading Kit, this is fantastic for PvE, is loads and loads of crit chance. But the problem is, this is very easy to farm. So my suggestion is it's easier to just farm these leads rather than actually buy them. They're very easy to get, so I'd skip them this week. The scripts themselves, you have Brutality and Sorcery, which you can just get from Degeneration, you can get from Rally if you don't have it in your class kit. You've got subclassing now, so there's so many ways to get this. I'll just skip this. And failing all that, you've got Potions. So again, don't buy this. Immobilize, this is more for people who want to play like that DK theme. This works with Soul Blast, so it's kind of okay. So if you are wanting to tank, you go for Soul Burst, you can put on Immobilize, and you can put on like Class Mastery or Sage's Remedy for some healing, or Snare, which is quite decent. You can put on Defiance, which has a mini cleanse. So there's a few options here. I quite like going with the Snare. And then you can put on like Sustain or Expedition if you want Resolve for more armor. Breach is quite nice if you want to debuff them as a tank. So there's a few different options here. And then that will give you a skill that basically lets you go and play like a tank, basically. That's it. It's mainly PvE, you don't use it anywhere else. The Swiftness, this is not terrible. I wouldn't get rushed to get this. There are better ones. It used to be pretty decent, but it now has got nerfed. So the problem is that you can't really use it on any good skill. So if you look at the Destro one, which is the Elemental Explosion, you can put on like Flame because of vampires. You can put on Immobilize here to snare people, which is quite decent. That's how you might use that. But if you go through these skills, you see there's not any good signature ones for Thief Swiftness. So it's a little bit awkward to build around, and that's like the problem with it. So as you kind of go through, you go, oh, it doesn't go on anything you actually really, really want. So that's kind of the issue with this. But that's kind of the week this week. There's not the best stuff, in all honesty. I wouldn't rush to buy things. I'd only get the dial-up ray if you like the snipers that I make. You know, I use it a lot. I try to keep that in the build always because it's a very, very fun set. But, you know, that's kind of the week, really. Get dial-up ray, maybe get a few scripts if you're missing them. If with the gold, you know, it doesn't hurt to have them in the bank. But that's it. If you get any questions about the series or the sets, let me know down below. And as always, if you like what I do with the videos, then do subscribe. I've got many videos on the way, and likes are greatly appreciated. I want to say a massive thanks to the YouTube and Patreon members who do support the content. If you want to support the content to get early access to them, and also builds and guides and all that stuff, there's details below. But as always, I'll catch you next stream, which is on Saturday at 9 PM UK, or the next video. So take care, guys. Thanks for watching, and bye.